I had, of course, traveled the world, experienced many strange phenomena, but belief in spirits, I was skeptical. I was musing over the qualities of a painting created nearly 200 years ago when it appeared. You see, the artist's brushwork seemed particularly vivid in the afternoon's glancing light. It made me feel as though I was seeing the artist himself in his studio, that I was sensing a presence in his creation. The realism of the little girl was so compelling that it seemed that she was about to twirl the ribbon on her finger and speak. Suddenly she disappeared from the painting, and before I could blink my astonished eyes, she was standing before me as a real person. Stunned, I grasped for words before finally asking, "Who are you?"
"I am called Quality.
And with a curtsy, she vanished back into the painting. After I had collected myself, I examined the painting in detail. It was named Quality. Not unusual for the period. Names that personified virtues like grace and charity were quite common. Was it my imagination that made her suddenly there, so lifelike? Or was it a spell cast by the spirit of the artist? My thoughts turned to spirit sightings reported by others. Could I announce that I had seen a spirit and sensed a presence in a painting titled Quality? But then you're here, aren't you? I know you're out there watching. I can sense your presence. But do you believe in spirits? Throughout history, nearly every society and culture has believed that at death, the spirits of loved ones passed on into eternity. But it wasn't always a one-way journey, because you see, spirits might just return sometimes as ghosts. Ancient Greeks and Romans held that the ghosts of their dearly departed returned during the feast days and, if ignored, might do mischief. To appease these spirits, the Greeks left small offerings of food outside their doors, and thus the custom of trick or treat. Halloween costumes and masks reflect the Roman custom of hiring actors to sit during feasts at the banquet tables depicting the dead. In our own country, the most famous haunting is set in the White House in Washington, D.C. Manifestations of a spirit were experienced there by such responsible people as President Teddy Roosevelt and Queen Wilhelmina of Holland. Both stated that they saw a brooding apparition of Abraham Lincoln in the room that was once his bedroom. History is replete with reports of strange apparitions and supernatural happenings. Seemingly the entire world is haunted by spirits. So many are the tales. But the intrigue of unexplained spirit phenomena pales when compared to the wonder of another spirit, that motivating spirit which inspires human achievement. Now, consider not the history of spirits, but man's spirit in history. Records of man's inspirations have been found dating back 25 millennia, when bands of Stone Age hunters venturing deep into hidden recesses in the earth were inspired to cover the walls and ceiling with exotic paintings of deer and elk. Why? Well, perhaps in veneration to the animals upon which they depended for survival. Or consider the spirit of those men who built the mysterious stone circle called Stonehenge. Surrounded by graves, standing far away from any trace of settlement, it must have been a place of solemn ritual and expression of the spirit of its builders. The pyramids of Egypt perfectly express the spirit of their ancient societies. Their very presence remains a silent testimony to the work of countless slaves, submissively yielding to the inspirations of their divine god-kings. Eons later, ancient Greeks, striving to find perfection in all human endeavors, explored ideas that would liberate the spirit of man with concepts of democracy and self-determination. In such a climate, Greek artisans and craftsmen, tasting the joy of free expression, produced beautifully proportioned temples adorned with sculptures of gods and goddesses stylized in human form. The Romans, too, had developed a measure of belief in the spirit of individual man. More precisely, they believed his spirit was his genius. Roman sculptors adopted Greek styles to depict the genius of their leaders, installing them in public buildings of monumental proportions. The spirit of Rome's age was supreme self-confidence and power, and her downfall, strength turned to weakness by overindulgence. With the fall of Rome, the progress of man's spirit faltered into that chaos known as the Dark Ages. But eventually, a new spirit of discovery and inspired creativity signaled the end of those dark times and the beginning of a new age, the Renaissance, or even its very name means rebirth. The Renaissance was an age of individuality, of genius, of discovery. Making man the measure of all things, artists created new ways for depicting man and his world. The probing of the stars by Copernicus, Kepler, and Galileo heralded the advent of modern science and medicine. Explorers seeking knowledge and reward set out to discover new worlds. Individual men could pursue excellence and personal satisfaction in any field of their choice. For the first time in history, each artist and craftsman could proudly impose his individual signature upon his own work for all to see. Thus inspired with the desire to proudly express themselves, they achieved new levels of quality and craftsmanship. But such individual freedom was not without price. Galileo was prosecuted for heresy. Leonardo hid his most advanced ideas and designs in secret notebooks far from critical eyes. Freedom seekers, growing even more restless, sought a place of refuge.